What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're going to be taking a look at the custom knife factory Sokosha. Now, the Sokosha, in typical custom knife factory fashion, is a collaboration between custom knife factory and another knife designer. But in this case, it's actually two knife designers because the Sokosha, it's a combination of two knives. So on the one hand, you have the Makosha, and the Makosha is a design by Balishev Anton, and it has a little bit of this blade shape. It is more of a traditional folder, not traditional folder, but a kind of a slip joint. It has a nail neck to deploy. So you have the influences of the Makosha by Balishev Anton. And on the other hand, you have Tony Marfione, and he designed the SOCOM folder. And so this is a combination of those two knives. And if you see photos of those two knives, and you put them side to side, I don't have either of those two knives. I don't have the Makosha and I don't have the SOCOM. But you would find that this is really a blend of those two. So the combination of those two knife designers, they got together with Custom Knife Factory, and what you get is not the SOCOM, not the Makosha, but the Sokosha. And so let me give you a tour of the knife, and I'll get started with the review. What you have here is a kind of almost all belly. You got a little bit of flat, but a lot of belly on this clip point. It has a swedge up top. There were two versions of the knife. One is the one that you see here. It's a two-tone DLC satin flats. That's the one that I have. And they also did one where it was all satin. I generally go for the all satin blades. I prefer non-coated blades. But in this case, because of the bronze and the carbon fiber and the black, I thought it kind of went a little bit more with this design of the knife. It is a thumb deployment only, and I failed. And please trust me when I tell you that the action is phenomenal on this. It is M390. This is number 21. They're numbered. I think it was something like 200 of them, but I'm not sure. It is a liner lock. You have this Timascus bent pocket clip that very much looks like Marfione's or Microtech's pocket clip. You have this little bit of a landing pad / screw location for attaching the liners, but it's kind of where the pocket clip ends up landing. You got a glass breaker in the back. I think I saw Lefty EDC where he turned this to the other side to make it for his left pocket carry. And on the show side, you have this milling pattern with this carbon fiber inlay onto the scale. It's not a small knife. It's a little bit larger than I usually try to carry, but this one, the blade comes at 3.5 inches. Usually my sweet spot is at 3.25 inches, but because a lot of makers like Rick Hinder, Chris Reeve, they go with 3.5 inches. I have a lot of knives in that range, but if I had my preference, I would do 3.25. So that's kind of what you have. So like I said, this is a collaboration between Custom Knife Factory, and on this side you have the Marfione Customs logo, or maker's mark, if you will. So let's get started, and let me give you some size comparisons. Like I said, this is not a small knife, and this is your paramilitary 3, and this is your paramilitary 2. So bigger than both of those. Okay, it has much more cutting edge than the Pair 2, and this one has a little bit of a finger choke, but it's kind of small, so you kind of have to, if you want to use it, you have to have either small fingers or kind of use it kind of like on a kind of pistol trigger grip. So you're gonna be choked back, but even in the choked back position, you still have a lot of handle. So not a small knife by any means. Thickness wise, show you. As you can see, it's slightly thicker than the Para 2, but it's rounded, so the thickness doesn't feel all that much, because the backside is, well, it's rounded, but it's the tiniest bit rounded, not much. It is rounded a little bit, but not much. It feels really good in the hand. So here it is against the Benchmade bug out and the mini bug out, and obviously this dwarfs both of those, in every way, right? This is not one that's very comparable to the bug outs. So let's start with the review, and let's talk ergonomics. And the ergonomics on this knife are very, very good. It feels really nicely in the hand. It really wants to be held in kind of a hammer grip or saber grip right here. Like I said, you have kind of a finger choil here if you want to do something that a little bit more detail, or you need a little bit more control. But I wear large gloves, and I can't really put my full finger in this forward choil here. It's more of a sharpening choil for me. I end up never going up here. But back here, my hand fits perfectly in between this curve and that curve. It just falls right there. But I imagine that if you have extra large hands, your finger could, your hand could be back here, obviously with bigger hand. But you would lock in with this flat in the pinky right here. So I would imagine that this will be good for people with large hands, extra large hands. I think this ergonomically would be very good. Now you do feel the pocket clip, okay? The pocket clip, it does have this this flat. It recurves up and then it goes flat. So it's not pokey, but you do feel it in the hand. It's a little bit tall. The curve and the gap between the scale and the pocket clip is a little bit tall. So you do feel it in the hand. It does land in the hollow of your hand, but it's so tall that you will feel it, okay? Not that you're probably gonna use a custom knife, factory knife for hard use, but if you're gonna be cutting a lot with it, you might end up feeling this quite a bit. You may wanna use it with the gloves. Now, cutting. So let me show you if I can see the blade stock right here, okay? So blade stock, you're talking very similar to the Para 2, okay? So what you end up having is something that slices actually very nicely, and kind of very similar to the Para 2. Now the Para 2, the flat grind goes from the tip up here to down here, which is a tad bit taller, just a hair. And this one has a little bit of a flat, so it's not quite as slicey as the Para 2, but it's pretty darn close. And I think you'd have a hard time differentiating. I do have to say that the Para 2 is a little bit slicier, but not by much. So this one actually cuts really, really nicely. I like the cutting action of the Para 2 quite a bit. It's one of the slicier knives, the full flat grind, the distal taper that it has. And this one, it comes close. It comes close to that cutting without quite reaching it. So if you have a Para 2, that's kind of what you can expect it to cut very similarly. Not quite as slicey as a bug out. The bug out has such a much thinner blade on also almost a full flat grind here. So this is much slicier than that. But I'm not gonna say that this is a hard use knife, because a knife that is kind of in this price range most of the time will not be used as a hard use knife. But I think this is slicier, or as slicey as a Para 2, almost there, but not quite there as a bug out. Now, action. Oh my God, the action on this one is probably my favorite out of my custom knife factories. This one has the deployment on the thumb, and I usually prefer a flipper tab, but the deployment with the thumb stud, it's really snappy. It's really good. It's fast. The deten's really nicely tuned, and the closing action. You know, I heard somebody mention the term a dampened shut, and I think that's what this one is. It's slow. It drops shut, but it's controlled. It's not a finger guillotine, and I think that's my preferred closing action right there. You know, where it drops, but it just takes maybe a little bit of a shake, and then it just drops. The action of this thing is phenomenal. Most of my custom knife factory knives have tremendous action. Not quite at the level of Shirogorov. The Shirogorov has some voodoo magic on their actions that make them phenomenal. This one, but this one is extremely good. You've got to be thinking, I think, probably Conigarius, you know, in that neighborhood of how good the action is. I think that's what I would compare this to. Now, fit and finish. To me, Custom Knife Factory makes some of the best knives in the world. And they make some of the best knives in the world, even though they don't have the advantage of refining the same model over and over, right? Chris Reeve has made a Sebenza for 30 years or however long, right? So he's been able to really dial in every single aspect of his manufacturing for that specific knife. You know, Rick Hinder, the same with the XM18. You know, John Grimsmo with the Norseman. All of those guys have been making the same knife over and over again for a long, long time. Now, Custom Knife Factory, you know, because of how they do their business and how they've done their collaborations. Today they're working with Tony Marfione. Tomorrow they're working with John Sorensen doing the Evo. The day after that they're doing the Snafu with Peter Rosenti, and all of those are dramatically different knives. This one is kind of a full. It almost looks like an integral, doesn't it? But it's actually a back spacer, but it's just so well done that it almost looks integral. But you have that. You have the Evo 2.0 that has just the regular scales and spacers. You have the Peter Rosenti Snafu that is an integral. You have all of those things, and they have to kind of adapt on the fly, right? They have to produce really high quality knife without having the advantage of being able to do repetition and quality control, right? They have to do it, on this run they do 200 or 300, however many they make of these, and then they move on to the next model. And yes, for example, they've done a number of the Evos, right? The Evo 1.0, the 2.0, and then they're coming up with the 3.0 this year. But even then, those are even different models. They're different sizes, they're different blade grinds, so they don't get that advantage. So I think the level of fit and finish, the level of quality that you get from this is tremendous, especially with the challenge that they have, that they can't do the same knife. And I'll show you here a couple of details that I really like. I really like how they've done the logos engraved in here. They look super, super nice. Let me see if I can get close here and you can see it. Really nice. The logos are really nice. The pivot is also really nice. I don't know what, let me see if I can get my tools here, but it is a huge pivot. Let me see, because I don't think I have a bit that is that big as that. Let's see. Bear with me. See, this is a T20. Yeah, it's a T20. Oh my God. So, T20 hardware. I'm usually thrilled when knives have T8 hardware, You know, that's I'm ecstatic if they have T10, and this is a T20. That's a T20 pivot right there. That's insane. So you got a T20 pivot. You have this really nice Timascus. Like I said, you have this backspacer, and it has like this arrow pointing up with a bevel at the tip. You have kind of these speed holes, and then even though the backspacer is a separate piece from the scale, it's got this it lines up perfectly. So the fit and finish is just tremendous. I think they do an outstanding job with their fit and finish. Now, finally, the airing of grievances. Again, I would prefer a flipper. I think the action is phenomenal, but I prefer my flipping action to be with the flipper. I have no use for a glass breaker, especially on a knife like this one. It's unlikely that this is gonna be a knife that a first responder has. Where a glass breaker might be needed. I would have liked to see it removed or removable, just so that I can remove it and put a screw in and not have it extend past that. It doesn't bother me all that much, but at the same time, because you're carrying it here, it's the only thing sticking out of your pocket. It's a dip carry pocket clip, and you lose some of that what you gain because you have that sticking out of your pocket. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a problem in the future. I've had this for probably 2 months maybe now, and I've carried it, but usually I like the inlays to be flush with the titanium. This one is inset. The problem I have with inset carbon fiber like this, and it's textured, is that it all the corners start getting a little bit of gunk, just from holding your hand, from flipping it, from carrying in your pocket, and from using it. You start to get a little bit of gunk in the corners. I usually like, when it's inlaid, I like it to be flush. I don't like it to be recessed. It helps with the ergonomics, and it helps with the texturing. You hold it very well, but at the same time, I usually prefer my inlay to be flush, even if it's textured. You can still texture it flush. And I think that's I'm nitpicking here, because I think this is an outstanding knife. This is really, really nice. They had a batch of these made, and sometimes I do these reviews, even though sometimes some of these are hard to get. In case you come across it in the secondary market, I do recommend that you get it. So I think I paid like $600, maybe $650 for this one. So only you can decide how much extra you would want to pay in the secondary market for it. But mostly when I do these reviews, I do them so that you can, be on the lookout. Follow Custom Knife Factory, and you can know when the next batch of this. It's probably gonna be at least another year at least. But if you like something like this, then just subscribe to their stuff. Follow them on Instagram, follow them or wherever, and then you can have a chance to buy it at regular MSRPs. Guys, that's gonna do it for this one. It's an incredible knife with really, really nice action. It cuts like a dream. It's a tad bit larger than I would have liked. 3¼ inches would have been my sweet spot, but I think the SOCOM Elite folder it's a larger tank. So the fact that they've kind of settled on this Sokosha with this size, I think it's really nice. Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you do, then like and subscribe. Don't get notified. Nobody likes to get more emails. You know where to find my content if you want to see it. And until I see you at the next one, take care.